And council meetings are live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. I now call the April 2nd, 2024 regular council meeting to order. The chair will entertain a motion to, by minute action, excuse the absence of Councilor Pollack. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All voting aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the April 2nd, 2024 general bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye? Aye. Please record the vote.
Councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve by minute action the April 2nd, 2024 conflict claims as audited by City Manager Napier. The one in your packet was incorrect. You are seeing the appropriate one on the screen, and that will be added to the packet at a later time. Did I get that right? Very good. So, do I have a motion to do that?
Second.
Any abstentions or nay votes? I would like to abstain. All voting aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With Mayor Kathy abstaining and all others voting aye, the motion passes.
We would like to welcome Laura Jeffries from the Donor Alliance to the meeting tonight. Please come forward to introduce yourself and discuss a little bit about the Donate for Life Month before I read the proclamation.
Well, it's nice to see all of you. I recognize many faces from the last time I was here. My name is Laura Jeffries. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer at Donor Alliance. Donor Alliance is the organization that facilitates organ and tissue donations for most of Wyoming and all of Colorado. On behalf of our board of directors, the entire executive team, our staff, and our volunteers, our advocates for life, I'd like to thank you for proclaiming that April is Donate Life Month. And this proclamation just joins the national effort to raise awareness for organ and tissue donation and transplantation. And you should all of you, be really proud because Wyoming continues to be one of the most generous states in the nation when it comes to folks saying yes to organ and tissue donation. Year after year, they continue to surpass the average. The national average of folks saying yes is 48.9%. And in 2023, 58% of Wyomingites say, yes, I want to help my friends, my neighbors, my family, which is really amazing. You should be proud of that when they go into the driver services and say yes on their, check the box on their state IDs or their driver services. And I would like to plug how amazing driver services here in Wyoming. They are an amazing partner to Donor Alliance and they do such great work. They're great partners. And here tonight, I'm joined with some of our advocates for life. We also have folks that are from Donor Alliance, and you probably recognize two familiar faces, Jesse and Gary, that are here in your local community, and they work to raise awareness every single day. And it's with our Advocates for Life stories that really show people the importance of organ and tissue donation. So April is National Donate Life Month. And what you'll start seeing is communities raise flags or put lights in their windows to just raise awareness. And it's our way to recognize and honor all of our donors and their families, of course, celebrate those that received transplants, which we have Ann Vina. She actually received a transplant 24 years ago, and she's right here in your community. And we also want to acknowledge that 150 people just in your community alone are waiting for a life-saving transplant, and many more, hundreds more, are waiting for the gifts of tissue so they can continue to have fulfilling lives. We have immense gratitude for our donors and their families, of course. And last year in the entire region, so Colorado and Wyoming, we had the generosity of 307 donors, organ donors, which had 918 organ transplants. That's a lot of lives saved. And then we also had 1,700 tissue donors, which means more than 100,000 people had those gifts so that they continue with their families. So thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Wonderful to see you again. And thank you because you are raising awareness to these life-saving and healing gifts of organ tissue transplantation, and so thrilled to be part of your community. Thank you so much.
I need to start going.
You should.
First of all, before I read the proclamation, those that are with the Donate for Life Alliance, would you please stand up? You came here. We appreciate you. Whereas this April 2024 is the 21st National Donate Life Month with the goal to raise awareness about organ, eye, and tissue donation to encourage Wyomingites to register as donors and honor those who have saved and healed lives through the gift of donation. And whereas Casper, Wyoming has been in the top 5 in the state donor registry with 60% of driver license ID card applicants signing up to be organ and tissue donors, a decision that reflects deep commitment to one another and confirms there is good in all of us. And whereas one donor can save up to 8 lives through organ donation and save and heal more than 75 lives through tissue donation. And whereas in 2023, a record 307 heroic organ donors provided 918 life-saving transplants in our community, and Donor Alliance received tissue for transplants from 1,703 heroic tissue donors, saving and healing with nearly 144,000 tissue grafts. And whereas saying yes to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor, you are not just checking a box, you are saving and healing lives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Stephen Cathy, Mayor of Casper, in the state of Wyoming, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as National Donate Life Month. In witness whereof, I hereby unto set my hand and cause the official seal of the city of Casper, Wyoming to be affixed this 2nd day of April 2024.
Thanks to all of you. I really appreciate it. I would like to acknowledge one of our donation partners. I did not see Raya O'Neill speak in, but Raya, you'll also recognize her. She is the coordinator for Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Bank, who is a great partner of us in making sure that all those that need the gift of sight get that. So thank you again.
Thank you. Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with council to come forward. This portion of the meeting is dedicated to the public to allow them time to voice their concerns. Therefore, council will take communications under advisement, but if they choose to respond, they will do so at a later time. Please state your name, direct all questions or comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal obscenities or threats will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. These will be referred to the city manager. If council chooses to address these matters, it will be done during the introduction of measures and proposals by council at the end of the meeting. Presentations will be limited to 5 minutes and no time extensions will be permitted. Please note that public hearings and ordinances each have their own comment period. You're already here.
I am here.
Continue on, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Ross Schrickman. I want to thank the council and the chief of police for addressing the issue with Kaufman Avenue. I actually live on Mariposa, and in December, I was going around with a petition into the neighborhood on property tax reform, and people were telling me about the problem. I want to address just for a moment the process that you mentioned during your last meeting. I was surprised to find out that council has to go through the normal ordinance procedure just to change the speed limit on a stretch of road. And I look forward to what you come up with to kind of speed up the process. Also, the ability of citizens to express themselves at these meetings is very helpful to council and to the mayor and to the staff. And so this is an opportunity for us to speak, as well as people should be encouraged to contact the council member of their districts. So, you know, we follow up on it. Just a couple of suggestions. As the chief said, I don't think posting an officer on a street is really efficient, but an occasional drive-through and maybe a warning for people will make them more aware of what's going on that street. And hopefully lowering the speed limit. I go to the grocery store on that road all the time, and I do see people speeding. Fortunately, nobody has run into each other, which is would be really bad if we had a head-on. So we'll see what happens with this, and I appreciate that. One other note, the Casper Marathon is coming up on June 2nd. Council member Jensen actually volunteered me into the marathon committee, and I much appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. But because of the traffic and the changes in the bridges being out, we're going to need a lot more volunteers. But you're going to get an invite to, you don't have to run. Councilman Pacheco is going to be at the finish line as an announcer, I understand. So you'll see me struggling, and I hope. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll also see we've got a T-Rex videos that we're doing. I'm actually the T-Rex. So that's been a lot of fun. So we look forward to everybody's participation. It's June 2nd, and appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to reiterate on the Kaufman Road.
Your name, please.
Jeff Walker.
Thank you.
Particularly the area of West Kaufman around 1535. It's where the road makes a sharp turn between where it's, the two parts. There's several problems with that road. They just recently repaved it, which is great. But when they did, they took out a couple of the speed bumps that were there, or at least speed dips. And so the traffic is still fast. There is the one little sign that the police chief had mentioned. It's a yellow cautionary. It says sharp turns and speed limit 15, but I don't think anybody particularly sees it. It doesn't jump right out at you. In that area, of course, the streets are narrow. People back out of their driveway, and the speed of people coming around the corners makes it almost a blind curve. Get halfway out, look one way, and then turn the other, and by the time you go back, somebody has raced around the corner. So I know that's an issue. Slowing it down would be prudent. Speed bumps might be prudent just to kind of force a compliance. That's essentially it. I know that when they first did the street pavement, they had talked about that they were going to cap it for the winter, and I didn't know if they were going to go back and rework any of it, or it looks nice, so maybe it's as done as it's going to be, but that would be part of the street department as to whether they could install something to slow that down. The road is narrow, so it's effectively like an old covered bridge where you have to share the lane and treat it one way. But there's a lot of sort of slalom driving to pull into an open spot while somebody else comes around. And it's surprising there haven't been more accidents or something of that nature. But anyway, thank you.
Very good. Looks like we've got one more, maybe.
Evening, people. My name is Robert Showman. I live on 4145 Coast Road. And we've been informed that possibly Prism Logistics are going to be running their gravel trucks and stuff down that road. We, as members of the city of Casper on the Coast Road, had to pay. Less than 2 years ago, we paid for a third of the road. I believe some of you are still aware of that. And now, you know, when the road was put down, it was put down as cheaply as possible, but it has served its purpose. But it will not handle 120-ton truck and pups coming down there. And being in the city limits, we're in a residential area, you just kind of got to imagine what we put up with, because there people are coming out of the county. There's like 51 family houses up in that area, and they think that's their own personal Indy 500. And we just, most of us in the city limits, like 95% of us, are retired. And I don't know about you, but I don't like the thought of having to heal up after a semi hits me. We ask if you guys would help us keep this a residential street rather than a all road, I guess would be appropriate there for it. I'm kind of new at this speaking, and I don't do very well, but
You're doing just fine.
we would like to see if we could gather your support to keep this from happening. You know, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like to spend money for nothing. And I think everybody's in agreement. So at that point, I'll step away, and you guys have a good evening, and hopefully we can nip this thing. Thank you.
Sir? Normally, we wouldn't comment at this time, but we are also concerned about the road because, yes, we know that you as the residents, the city and the county all put that road in. And we do know as well, as you mentioned, that it was designed as a residential road, not a haul road. So we are looking at ways to address that situation. So.
Not be smart or anything, but if we didn't let it happen, that would eliminate a lot of problems. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Regarding his question, can the city put in something stating that vehicles weighing over 26,000 pounds and then speed limit 15 miles an hour or something? Can we do that?
If you, I understand what you're saying, and that would work perfect. But believe me, I live there. And you're taking your life in your hands when I pull out of my driveway, because it's a 4 to a 7% grade, and people hit the brakes, and you know what happens when you're going downhill and you hit the brakes, you gain speed. I understand, you know, and your theory is correct, but after living there for 20 some odd years, it won't happen.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your concern.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, The question, I think, deserves a little more investigation in terms of what the ordinances currently regulate as it relates to residential streets and heavy truck traffic and those kinds of things. And so if council would, prefer, we can come back with an answer that might address that a little more appropriately.
I think that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Everybody in agreement with that? Okay, very good.
Sorry, I don't know if this is an appropriate time to ask a question. I know we have talked at one point about carving out some time after public comment to provide for us to allow an opportunity for us to comment so that folks that did give public comment didn't have to wait till the very end of the meeting for council around the table. I was just curious. Is that something we need to kind of formalize in like?
I think that would be great. I know at the time it was brought up, not many people were interested in that, but we can reinvestigate that. So I have no problem with that.
Bring it up at the end of the meeting.
Very good. Anybody else wish to speak to council? None appearing, we will move on. Please read the consent agenda title.
Establish April 16th, 2024 as the public hearing date for the transfer of ownership and location for retail liquor license number 24 from Alibi Bar and Lounge Incorporated, doing business as Alibi Bar and Lounge, located at 1740 East Yellowstone, to Homax Oil Sales Incorporated, doing business as Stop and Go, located at 519 South Poplar.
The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, establish the public hearing date just read.
Second.
Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of an ordinance amending section 15.40.105 of the Casper Municipal Code, establishing a fire self-inspection program. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Jacob Black to J. Carter Napier, dated March 28th, 2024.
Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
I do, Your Honor, thank you. This is the opportunity council has to initiate the formal process that would adopt the self-inspection program that the fire department has visited with the council about in previous meetings. The basic idea would be that of having the ordinance authority and ability vested by the council to allow the fire department to partner with businesses that qualify and are eligible for the self-inspection program to not only ensure that the inspections and their wide range of needs would be met, but that also the department will be able to leverage their help and make that happen on a more consistent annual basis.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of an ordinance establishing a fire self-inspection program to please approach the lectern. None appearing. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to an ordinance establishing a fire self-inspection program to please approach the lectern. None appearing. There being no one or no others to speak for or against an ordinance establishing a fire self-inspection program, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance amending sections 15.40.105 of the Casper Municipal Code, establishing a fire self-inspection program.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
Second.
Okay. I thought that was you, but no. Discussion. No comments, discussion? Any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote.
All counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of an ordinance amending section 8.40.040 and 8.44.060 of the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to administrative fees for litter, weed, and pest control abatements. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier dated March 29th, 2024. Exhibit number 2, Casper Star Tribune proof of publication published on March 26th, 2024.
Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you. As council is aware, this is the proposal, as it were, to the council for your consideration as it relates to the imposition of administrative fees for enforced abatements. Council is aware that this is a need that the ordinance currently does not address as it relates to abatement activities that often our code enforcement folks are engaged in following up on. The other thing I wanted council to be aware of as it relates to the potential passage of this ordinance, we hope to bring in concert with the third reading of this ordinance, which we anticipate to be on May 7th, a resolution that would be considered that evening as well, that would essentially lay out the fees that you have had questions about before. And so our hope is that with a consecutive adoption of the readings leading up to that point, we would then be able to implement this program and move forward in time for the heat of the season that this often shows up on.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of an ordinance pertaining to administrative fees for litter, weed, and pest control abatements, please approach the lectern. None appearing. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to an ordinance pertaining to administrative fees for litter, weed, and pest control abatements to please approach the lectern. There being no one to speak for or against an ordinance pertaining to administrative fees for litter and weed and pest control abatement, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance amending sections 8.40.040 and 8.44.060 of the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to administrative fees for litter, weed, and pest control abatements.
The chair would now entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read. Discussion? Amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote.
All counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of new restaurant liquor license number 53 for Frontier Brewing Company. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Tremmel to J. Carter Napier dated March 11th, 2024. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of website publication as published on the City of Casper website dated April 2nd, 2024. Exhibit number 3, Casper Star Tribune proof of publication published on March 21st and 26th, 2024. Exhibit number 4, liquor license application filed February 26th, 2024.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you. I think the only thing that I would add is to remind council that this address does currently have a microbrew liquor license. I bring that up to ensure the council that the deployment of a restaurant license as well at this address is consistent with state statute and the applicants have done everything that they've been asked to do.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of new restaurant liquor license number 53 to please approach the lectern. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to new restaurant liquor license number 53 to please approach the lectern. There being no one to speak for or against new restaurant liquor license number 53, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the minute action item by title only.
New restaurant liquor license number 53 for Brew Story LLC, doing business as Frontier Brewing Company, located at 150 West 2nd Street.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the minute action item just read.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance repealing section 15.16.010, building construction prohibited during certain hours, exceptions.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
Second.
Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this? None appearing. Do we have any discussion amongst ourselves? Any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Taking care of business.
Do what?
We're taking care of business.
Nobody's here to gripe. Please read the ordinance in second reading by title only.
An ordinance amending chapter 8.20 noise of the Casper Municipal Code.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
I'll second.
Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this ordinance? Discussion amongst council members. Amendments. Abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote.
All councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Council will now consider consent resolutions. Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
9A1, authorizing a lease agreement with Johnson Restaurant Group Incorporated for operation of the 19th hole restaurant at the municipal golf course. 9A2, authorizing a procurement of goods agreement between the City of Casper and Trailside Structures LLC to procure 2 prefabricated buildings for the Metro Animal Services Shelter. 9A3, accepting a public sidewalk easement from the University of Wyoming Board of Trustees as part of the Casper Family Medicine Clinic renovation. 9A4, authorizing a procurement agreement with Sound and Cellular Incorporated for the Ford Wyoming Center radio replacement project. 9A5, authorizing a contract for professional services with Civil Engineering Professionals Incorporated for design, bidding, and construction administration services for the Tower Hill Tank Stabilization Project. 9A6, authorizing a contract for professional services with GeoSyntech Consultants Incorporated for the 2024 to 2029 Solid Waste Planning Project. 9A7, approving the vacation and final plat creating the Kenwood Addition Number 2 subdivision and approving the subdivision agreement. 9A8, approving a 5-year agreement with Thomson Reuters for Westlaw Internet Legal Research Services for the City Attorney's Office. 9A9, authorizing a contract for professional services with Reuters Sewer Service Incorporated, doing business as R&R Rest Stops. And 9A10, authorizing acceptance of a sub-grant from the National Arbor Day Foundation in the amount of $699,900 for the improvement of Casper's urban forest.
The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda items just read. City manager, would you like to comment on any of these items?
No, thank you.
Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
Please read the consent minute action title.
10A1, authorizing the purchase of one new wheeled landfill compactor for use by the Solid Waste Division of the Public Services Department.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda item just read. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye. Please record the vote.
With all counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
At this time, we ask councilors to bring forward relevant concerns or items of interest. We'll start with Councilor Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Not much to report, this time. I would support adding the Coates Road issue to the book agenda and have some more conversation about that. I continue to hear from constituents about their concerns, and so it is something that we need to look into as far as what we can do. Let's just kind of hear the issues.
I believe, Mr. City Manager, you and the city attorney had indicated that you needed to do some research along those lines. Coates Road.
Right. Mr. Mayor, I think the answer regarding heavy truck traffic on Coast Road is definitely something that we can do work on and bring you an answer. I'm not sure if I read that into your request for a work session topic. However, if that was all you wanted to hear about in requesting something on the work session agenda.
I think there's probably some, there may be other issues around that in terms of support that the council might offer in terms of resolution or something to that effect. But I know the window for whatever's gonna take place with that, either approval or moving forward or not, is probably gonna pass pretty quickly. So I don't think it's something that we have much a large window of time for. So, but yeah, I would be interested in hearing more about the options available to city council in terms of hearing these issues and then the city council adopting a resolution of support position around that.
The rest of council in line with that proposal?
I personally would be happy to have a conversation about that. I do think we should talk about it. I personally was gonna wait to bring that to a work session until the potential operator seeks a conditional use permit from the county. My understanding is they have to give 60 days notice at least. And then there's a public comment period after that when they're seeking permits and stuff. So I personally felt like that was the most appropriate time. However, happy to, if folks want to expedite that and get it on our agenda quicker, I'm certainly amenable to that. But I personally still feel like we should wait till they seek a conditional, if they seek a conditional use permit. I feel like that's the best time to do that, but again, open to hearing other opinions.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, councilors, it's a relatively complicated situation. I'm somewhat familiar with the ins and outs of it. I think Councilor Gamrot is correct. Before that they can move forward, even with a limited mining operation, they would need to seek a conditional use permit from the county. It would have to go to their planning and zoning. There would be notice and publications required. So there would be some time. Happy at the council's pleasure to, and with the city manager's concurrence, to certainly present kind of the issues at play and do kind of an overview. Certainly can hone in on kind of what the city's concerns with regard to truck traffic could be. I think it's really kind of at the pleasure of council. I'd be prepared and happy to present whatever you all want to hear.
And basically, the SLIB meeting Thursday will kind of determine where that goes as well. Is that a fair statement?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not exactly sure what the end goal of that conversation with SLIB and the residents is. But I do plan to listen in, you know, and see what might come of it.
Because I was wondering if they have to give their approval, then
SLIB has all put theirs.
So SLIB has already given, authorization for those, leases. I don't know if they have the authority to pull them back. But that's why I was personally waiting for, cause it's possible at the SLIB meeting on Thursday, they take some sort of action that makes the whole situation null and void. It's possible that the potential operator decides not to ever seek a conditional use permit from the county, in which case it would also be null and void. And so I was just, I guess, allowing a little bit of time to, I didn't want to, have city staff, I guess, do a bunch of homework on a bunch of hypotheticals if it gets killed at some point here in the next little while. So that was the only reason I was holding off personally.
I guess my thinking around the resolution might be to convey some of our thoughts and perspective to the county commission and just kind of communicate, here's, you know, if council is willing and able to take some type of position stand, that resolution would convey that, but prior to the conditional use permit here. But that may, like you said, it may be premature.
you had something, Mr. City Manager?
Well, I just want to assure the council that the question that we've been given to look into is gonna happen in terms of providing an answer one way or the other. So you can count on an answer from us about heavy truck traffic in residential streets. It's hard for me not to, you know, I like what Councilor Gamroth is suggesting in terms of the wait to see if a conditional use permit actually does come forward. Because at that point, I think council will be obligated to weigh in terms of a road maintenance agreement that hopefully would be a part of the issuance of that permit, if indeed a permit is gonna be issued at all.
Sure.
And so I think the efficacy of council's discussion at that point in time makes a lot of sense.
So basically, as Councilor Gamroth had mentioned then, is we probably ought to wait and make sure that there is a conditional use permit applied for. And then I believe you said it had, what, a 60-day
I
notification?
believe they have to notify the adjacent landowners 60 days in advance. I don't know how long the public comment period through the county lasts, but
We will have basically 2 months in there, once it comes out, to schedule the work session to go over that. Will that work?
Sure. There'll be a gap in there before the final decision about the conditional use permit,
Mhm.
when they do that public hearing period.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, and that's correct, and there'll be at least 60 days before it goes to planning and zoning, and then in 2 weeks at least until it goes to the county commissioners. But I would also say that until we actually have a conditional use application, we don't know what's being proposed, the routes of ingress and egress. So it really would, I think, would be hard to take a position, for council to take a position on it without knowing some of the finer points of what's being sought.
We need the permit to be applied for to know how to respond. Very good. If that'll work for everybody else? Very good. Anything else? Councilor Jensen?
I don't.
Well, giddy up.
Yeah. Counselor Jensen and Mayor Kathy and Zelina, I think, are going to be jockeying at the senior center fundraiser on April 26th, the night of the races. So go Trigger.
The old John Wayne horse, right? Isn't that the
No,
same
that
trigger?
was Roy Rogers.
Roy Rogers. That's close. Before my time.
You look the old guy. Thanks, Ray.
Steve knew that right like that.
Well, he thought it was a
And
great-
Silver was the Lone Rangers.
Like the drink, the Cokes and cherries, it's called the Roy Rogers. See? You didn't even know that, I knew.
Don't know about that, no.
Okay, wait, I gotta come back around here. So I would like to, I don't know if this is something we can do. I feel like it's something that we can do, but I would like to explore, in our ordinances, or if there's some way that we can, if there's something that has to do with defensive flags and signs that are displayed throughout our city. I think it just looks trashy. I think it's not a good image for us to have. I understand that there is some freedom of speech there where people are entitled to do it, but I also understand the impact that it makes on families with children driving by when they see that and having to explain to them that image. I also see it negatively impacting the tourism and the people that come to the town for all the sports, especially when we are trying to make that develop more with the sports ranch and bring more tourism in. I just think it's a bad image. So I'm not sure if there's anything that we can do, or if there's guidelines that we can add into something that's existing, but in city limits or like on your gateways that go through, it's just not a image that I particularly want to see or have to explain, or want people who are visiting Casper for the first time to have to witness. I mean, everybody has their political opinion, but you can have some sort of social etiquette with that. And if it's a trashy flag, I just don't think it's appropriate for us to have in the city. So I would like to try to figure out something, if there's anything that we can do about that. I'm not sure. Who wants to take that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Jensen, so I think that is kind of a delicate area, because you're talking about First Amendment speech. Certainly, there are certain types of speech that is not protected, profanity in some cases, hate speech potentially, but it is an area that would be, wrought with legal pitfalls. So I think, certainly we could look at it if that's the pleasure of council, but the First Amendment rights to free speech are pretty strong, and
Right.
if we were to try to address that, it would have to be pretty narrowly tailored.
Pretty strong here in Wyoming, yes.
I was just gonna say, it was probably before you joined council, and it was probably before we had Eric as our city attorney, but we've discussed this during my tenure on council. We've had citizens bring it up to us before. I drive by an F Joe Biden flag every single day. And my daughter's 5.5 now, and she can definitely read 4-letter words. And so I don't love it either, but we had a conversation and we came to the conclusion that it's pretty bulletproof. And that we were pretty limited in our, I believe the chief weighed in pretty extensively. And so at that time, we had decided that it was just kind of something that unfortunately, you can ask them nicely to take it down, for the benefit of the community, but sounds like that's about all we can do.
Well, draw awareness to
Yeah,
offensive
very
flags.
distasteful.
It's distasteful. It's a bad image for Casper, and it's not, there's no social etiquette to that, and I just don't. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, yes, and I'm entitled to mine. I just don't think it's a good image for the city of Casper, or what we want people to come into the city, and that's what we're about, because we all know that negatives outweigh the positives that we have. And if they come and they see signs, then, it just sheds a bad light on us. Hopefully whoever has those signs will see some light and understanding and take some appropriate action. Thank you. That's all I got.
Does anybody want to bring it up further?
No,
Okay, very good. But
no,
I
they've already
need-
traveled down that road. We don't need to travel down it.
I just had to ask to make
Public
sure.
awareness, take your trashy flags down, not a good image, please.
Very good.
Yeah.
Councilor Pacheco.
I don't have anything of significance, but I was out today for a walk before council and just noticing lots of bikes out. As the weather is starting to get nice, you're gonna notice bikes and people out taking advantage of that. So please be careful. We've had incidences where people have been hurt and killed, as people are out and about. So just making sure Casper's safe and minding bikes and motorcycles as well. Motorcycles are coming
wildlife.
out. Yes, yeah,
Little dogs.
dogs. Counselor Jensen's dogs.
Leashes.
It's true. So anyway, just wanted to make that be aware, and I ride a bike and I enjoy that. So just be mindful of it and wear a helmet if you're gonna ride a bike.
You want to discuss something about color?
That was my next thing. Could you maybe not dress all in black on your bike?
And your black bike in that night?
Black tips.
Your black,
That's what I'm casing
your
out.
black bike and your black suit at midnight, yeah, it's a little tough to see.
He was, that was what he was doing.
Okay.
Little sick yellow, that's all we have.
That's hilarious.
Put a sticky note on your
I will.
helmet. There you go, yellow.
Somebody flip
Brown
tape on you.
Counselor Haskins, before this deteriorates any
We'll just go
further.
No, I don't have it.
Counselor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. I was glad to see us recognize Donate Life month, and you made it through the whole thing without crying, so yeah, good for you. I've had several family members donate organs after their death, and it's always really powerful to hear from the recipients of those organs. As it was mentioned earlier by the folks that spoke, it's literally a life-saving act. Every donor can save up to 8 lives, and you can enhance 75 others through eye, tissue, and other donations. So if you're not yet a donor, 58% is great. And I love to hear that, but if you're not yet a donor, I'd encourage you to highly reconsider, because of how valuable it can be, how much quality of life you can provide for other people. For the record, you can take whatever you want from me after I die. I'm dead, so I don't care.
I'm a donor.
Whatever you want. I would also like to have on a work session, I personally think I guess I don't recall the particulars of the previous conversation we've had, but I think it would be valuable to have an amount of time after public comment for us to provide our comments. Tonight was a great illustration. We had folks that spoke to us, and I don't blame them for not sitting around for an hour and a half to hear our responses. They left, and so we don't have the opportunity to chat with them. I still believe we should not get into a back and forth with folks. I think we should have the ability to ask questions of folks when they're giving public comment, and then after public comment, I would love to see a time set aside for us to provide context or provide responses to those public comments. So I guess I don't recall that conversation and us taking a vote on it, but I would like us to explore adding that to our agenda for future meetings.
Yeah. Let's do
I
it.
agree.
Can we get that stuck on there
Oh, absolutely.
sometime in the near future?
You bet.
Or how about January 14th? No.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. And I appreciate you bringing up the historical knowledge on the First Amendment. Thank you. Councilor Sutherland.
Thank you. I don't have really much. There's a homeless coalition meeting tomorrow, so I can provide some feedback on that next week. And I really agree with readjusting how we handle the comment period. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Thanks for doing that. And I'll have to join virtually next week. So I was gonna tell you, but I'm just gonna tell you now.
Very good.
But that's it for me.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Just a question for the homeless coalition. They did the census. Have we received any of those numbers back? Back in January,
Not yet.
the point and count?
Point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I just attended the Hall of Justice and Detention Center meeting this morning, and it sounds like they're gonna get that roof on the detention center in May, so a little bit sooner than they were anticipating. So not a lot of things, so that's positive. That's all for me.
I was also at that same meeting, and they will also, in conjunction with that, be setting their new air handlers up there as well. so that they don't damage the new roof. So that'll all be happening within the next 6 weeks. They're talking about starting on the 10th for an update for budget. Okay. I told them we weren't gonna pay till after the 1st of July. So, very good. Also, this last week, we have been having several meetings with, the members of the SLIB board, to discuss our grant application, and, the big meeting will be this Thursday, and we are hoping for approval for that, which will wind up running then, a sewer line up to the property north of the event center and the sports ranch. And this is not being driven by the sports ranch. This is being driven by the fact that we own 112 acres, is it?
Yeah.
North of Events Drive, and we are looking at trying to get that into the hands of the public for development and get it on the tax rolls. So that's what we're looking for there. So that's where we are with that. The next meeting of city council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 PM on Tuesday, April 9th, and a regular council meeting to be held at 6 PM on Tuesday, April 16th. A notice of an executive session to take place at this date and during this meeting was given. However, the executive session is no longer required. Therefore, we will move directly into adjournment of this regular meeting. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So moved.
Any abstentions or nay votes? Not today.
Never know what I'm gonna.
All voting aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Do it.